So I gotta be completely and utterly honest with you guys. I just filmed a 35-minute unedited video for my Obi-Wan Kenobi review and started editing it to find that I had completely corrupted audio. The audio was out of sync with my voice or my mouth, and yeah, 35 minutes down the drain. Completely passionate, completely first take, just really strong, very happy with how that review came out. And my audio was completely corrupted, and there was no saving it. Audio was out of sync with my mouth, and it was crackling and just a hot mess. Fuck. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. As I mentioned in my now corrupted video, I have somebody who's sleeping in the house right now. Just finished watching the episode over an hour ago at this point, and yeah, I'm gonna kind of keep it down. I will up the audio for you guys on your end, but I'm gonna keep it down just a little bit. So if it sounds like I'm a little bit more hush, I guess you can look at this as more of an ASMR review, I suppose. Yes, let's get into this because I am so disheartened right now. I'm so disheartened. Let's do this. Directed by Deborah Chow, Obi-Wan Kenobi is 6 episodes and sees the return of prequel veterans Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Jimmy Smits, Joel Edgerton, Bonnie P.S., and more, and is a story between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, giving us a story right in the slap-dab middle, 10 years after Revenge of the Sith and 10 years before A New Hope. So I'm going to kind of keep this a lot shorter, quick, simple, straight to the point. There will be a spoiler section of this at the very end, and I may get straight to my thoughts here. Ewan McGregor was phenomenal. It was so great to have this actor back in this role and to see him playing Obi-Wan Kenobi again. When this was initially announced, I was thrilled. And I remember it was originally supposed to be a movie, but ended up not playing out that way and ended up kind of making it a TV show instead. I have some gripes when it comes to that a little bit later, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. But overall, seeing Ewan McGregor return in the role and his performance, I thought was great. Seeing a defeated Obi-Wan, I thought was fantastic from beginning to end, and I really enjoyed kind of seeing him have to become the Jedi that he once was once again, as he's become defeated, as the Jedi Order is no longer a thing, and the Empire is only getting stronger and stronger. You then have Hayden Christensen returning to play the character of Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, which for me was an absolute thrill. Growing up as a kid, and I talked about this really in-depthly in that now corrupted file, I loved the prequels, and still to this day. I've been going to Star Wars fan events since I was a kid, from Hollywood Studios, Star Wars weekends, to things like Star Wars Celebration, and a lot more. Star Wars for me has always been my favorite thing in the whole wide world, the thing that's brought me the most happiness and purpose in a lot of ways, and the thing that has consistently driven me. Whenever I felt like there wasn't something in my life I could latch onto or relate to, I always had Star Wars, and specifically the prequels. Those were the movies that came out when I was a kid, and you know, it's one of those things now where it's crazy to see how much more love that they receive now, whereas when I was a kid, there were so many older people telling me how bad they sucked. And at the end of the day, now we have the Clone Wars and Rebels, and the prequels are kind of just more beloved. That era, those characters are far more beloved. And it's just kind of funny how that's kind of happened, you know, despite, you know, a lot of these actors being given so much crap for their roles in these movies, even though nowadays these films are far more beloved than they ever were, which I love to hear. But man, I spent my years as a kid defending these movies, and so I can't tell you what it meant to start this series off with the opening really well edited recap of the prequels and just see these movies validated even further in this franchise, and to have a series like this that is blending modern age Star Wars with storytelling from the original trilogy, while also obviously using players and elements from the prequels. For me, this was a perfect blend of what Star Wars currently is, what Star Wars once was far before my time, and what Star Wars was when I was a kid. I felt like it was a perfect blend of it all, and genuinely, I really enjoyed the tone, the look, the feel, the vibe of the show from beginning to end. You have that great score from Natalie Holt that was assisted by the main theme being written by John Williams, that reprises music from the series from beginning to end, while also having new music that's introduced in this series for people to latch onto. Again, I can't emphasize what it meant for me as a Star Wars prequel fan to have this show exist, and to see Ewan McGregor return and to see Hayden Christensen return for me was an absolute honor, pleasure, and just what a legendary time to be alive. It's also so sad to me that this show is over, because this show premiered while I was at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, California, and I remember them, hyping up the show still. It was still really new. They premiered 2 episodes there, both for people who attended and got like a special pass to see it, and for obviously everybody on Disney Plus, as they dropped it a little bit early as well. And yeah, I just remember watching those first 2 episodes then in that hotel room and just being completely engulfed in everything that was happening. And to now be this many weeks later, for me, is sad on 2 fronts. Not only is it sad because Obi-Wan Kenobi is over, but it's also sad because it just really highlights how many weeks it's already been since Star Wars Celebration, and how you can have such a beautiful weekend but get lost in the monotony of week to week working and life and paying bills and all that crap. But if there's anything that always kind of brings me out of that negative mind space, it's Star Wars. Moving forward with the rest of the cast, Moses Ingram as Riva, the third sister, one of the Inquisitors in this show. I want to really touch on her in just a moment, but first of all, I do want to mention how awesome it is to see the Inquisitors in live action. It was interesting to see certain individuals say like, oh yeah, here's these new characters, but anybody who's familiar with the Darth Vader comics or Star Wars Rebels or things like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the Inquisitors have been around for quite some time, including Inquisitors like the Fifth Brother and the Grand Inquisitor, who are in this show as well, which makes sense canonically, and it's just great to see them a little bit earlier than the events of Star Wars Rebels here in this show, knowing that the Inquisitors are already out there. It was also great to see their base, the Fortress Inquisitorius, which was initially shown to us as an audience in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a video game that came out a few years back. So it's great to see them not only pulling from the animated canon storytelling, but also video games in a way that doesn't confuse casual moviegoers. They may be introduced to this stuff for the first time. They kind of have to digest it for the first time here, but for longtime Star Wars fans who have kept up with the other material, it is great to see that stuff translated into a story like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Again, with this show being such a perfect blend of the prequel era, the original trilogy era, and this modern era of Star Wars that we're getting. But getting into Moses Ingram, who plays Riva, she was a victim, once again, like many have been, to racism and a lot of just nasty vitriol from people in the internet space when it comes to Star Wars fans. And I want to make something abundantly clear, again, as somebody who has attended countless Star Wars fan events in my entire life and was just at Star Wars Celebration watching Moses Ingram getting massive praise and applause from audiences, and people going to get her autograph and take pictures with her and all that stuff. I'm so glad she got to experience that before Kenobi became a widespread thing, because she got to see who the true Star Wars fans are. And it's just a reminder to me whenever stuff like this happens, that people who go out of their way to belittle and to harass the actors and actresses that are in these movies and shows, or especially say anything racist or sexist, they're not Star Wars fans. Nobody could ever tell me otherwise. They're not Star Wars fans. The actors have come out themselves, including Ewan McGregor, saying that these people are not Star Wars fans, and I could not agree more. If you're a Star Wars fan and feel this need, and you feel this need to be racist towards actors or actresses in this series, fuck you, and you're not a Star Wars fan. That's all there is to say about that. With that said, the character of Riva, she was a character that I wasn't 100% in love with from beginning to end, but I liked her. I definitely did not understand a lot of the hate that people had for her, even if it wasn't disgusting and racist. And I did see some of the criticisms about her being a little bit over the top in acting, and I can say that I agree to an extent, but with what they ended up doing with her character and what we learned about her character by the end of the series, for me, I feel like it really gave a little bit more reason as to why her character maybe seemed like she was overacting at times. You understand her motivations a lot more as you get further on, and who her character is, or who her character is trying to be in a lot of ways. And overall, I do think she did a really great job when you kind of look back at the series and what you learn about her character later on. Some of the way that her character acts really does start to make sense as you learn more about the motivation and who this character is. Indira Varma plays the character of Tala, who is a character who helps Obi-Wan at a point in the show. I thought she did a great job in the show, really thoroughly enjoyed her performance, and yeah, it was nice to have her in the show. I thought the chemistry between her and Obi-Wan in the show was really solid. Two characters that I enjoyed in the show, but that were a little strange to me over times, were the characters of Roken and Haja, played by O'Shea Jackson Jr., the son of Ice Cube, and Kumail Nanjiani. And these are two good actors, and I thought their roles in here were pretty solid, and I liked the role they played in this overall narrative with Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi. But there was certainly an element to me that just kind of feels like, oh, that's Ice Cube's son, and oh, it's that dude from Eternals, you know? Or, you know, obviously Kumail Nanjiani has been in a lot of other things, but I couldn't help but see who they are in the real world. And that's kind of a struggle I have with Star Wars overall is, you know, I don't really want there to be a lot of really popular faces at times that show up in Star Wars. I feel like Star Wars is at its best when you either bring back, you know, people who already got big because of Star Wars, or Star Wars kind of helped propel them there, and are kind of returning to the franchise, or people who are kind of new to the franchise, or, you know, newer faces to people, you know. I think that what they did with the sequel trilogy, for example, was a great example, because Oscar Isaac was already a pretty big actor at the time, you know, but he wasn't who he is today. And Star Wars kind of helped propel him there, as he's also done all these other big, great things leading up to Star Wars and right before Star Wars. He was already an accomplished actor, without a doubt, but he wasn't the most known actor in the world, or at least who he is today. Daisy Ridley obviously was pretty much a no name at the time that she did Star Wars, and obviously it really propelled her career for the time. And of course, something that always happens with like the lead actor in Star Wars, there tends to be a bit of a typecast situation that happens for a little bit, but I'm sure she'll break out of that. But even John Boyega, you know, he'd done Attack the Block, but he hadn't been in a whole lot. So I think that they cast those movies wisely by getting these great actors who weren't all super well known. So with that said, I don't really want to see a Star Wars thing with Tom Cruise in it, or The Rock, or Chris Pratt, or, you know, Chris Evans, or, you know, people like that. Not to say that Kumail Nanjiani or that O'Shea Jackson Jr. are on that caliber, but since they're such recognizable faces and actors, there were times where I felt myself being taken out of the characters that they were, and I was just seeing the actor more so, especially with Kumail Nanjiani, since he's just such a goofy guy, and I've seen him in such funny movies. It just kind of felt a little bit weird at times, but with that said, I still enjoyed their role in the show, and I enjoyed their performances, even if that's more of just a personal thing that I kind of wanted to mention. Seeing Jimmy Smits again as Bail Organa was fantastic. I mean, every time I see the character return in things like, you know, the Clone Wars or Rebels or in Rogue One, I always have a lot of fun, and he's just so good in the role. And, you know, who would have thought back in the day watching, you know, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, that Bail Organa would be one of the most reoccurring Star Wars characters in all of Star Wars media. There isn't an abundance more I can say at this point without getting into spoilers. Again, I'm not gonna lie, I'm super disheartened going into this review. I was gonna wait till much later, but I have to go to work in a couple of hours, so this is my really only opportunity to review this and get this video out before it's much later in the day, and I'm already, you know, not doing episodic reviews. So I just wanted to be able to sit down and ramble my thoughts as it's fresh on my mind. But I had a lot more to say in the other review that just came out naturally, you know, and it is not present for this review, and I gotta kind of speed this one up a little bit. But my general thoughts are here. Overall, I've loved this show. I've had so much fun from beginning to end, and there's just so many elements about this show that for me really, again, just validated my love for the prequels, and just really honors those movies and treats them as a pure, true part of Star Wars. And, you know, they already have been. The Clone Wars, Rebels, all these other storytelling things have already, you know, validated the prequels in so many ways. But, you know, there's definitely that element of, again, I sometimes still feel like that young kid that had people telling me how crappy these movies are, to be able to sit here and have these moments where Obi-Wan is having, you know, a nightmare sequence where he's seeing flashes from the prequels, for me is a dream. It's a dream come true to see these movies utilized in this way and used as such a launching pad for such a great and compelling story. Before I get into my spoiler section, one of my biggest worries going into this when they announced that Darth Vader was going to be in the show was that it was going to ruin these two lines.
I sense something, a presence I've not felt since...
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
I didn't want anything to take away from the impact of those lines going into the show, especially with Obi-Wan and Vader, facing off. That was a promise they gave us with the marketing of this show. And yeah, I'm very happy to say that I think they handled it very, very well. And I would never have wanted to take on the challenge myself of having to write a story with these characters in this time frame, because there's only so much you can do. If you do too little, you underwhelm the audience, but if you do too much, you mess with the canon. So you kind of have to toe this very, very fine line. And I think that Deborah, Chow, and everybody who was part of the writing team did a good job of keeping it exciting, keeping it compelling, keeping it thematic, without taking away from what was to come with these characters down the line. With that said, I'm going to get into my quick little spoiler section. So that is your spoiler warning. This is not going to be a play-by-play of everything that happened, but just some things I want to talk about that definitely stood out to me. One of the main things, Vivian, Lyra, Blair as Leia. Here's this young actress coming in to play Leia that just had all the sass and attitude that Carrie Fisher brought to the role. When I saw people making these nasty, child actor comments online or on Twitter, I just was completely blown away, because I think that this young actress did a phenomenal job. Sure, she had her moments where it seemed a little silly or goofy. There are silly or goofy moments in this show overall, but thoroughly from beginning to end, I had a lot of fun. I was really engaged in her character. She had these really fun, cute one-liners, and it just felt like Leia. It felt consistent with the character we see in books, comics, the movies, and even things like Star Wars Rebels. Overall, I really thoroughly enjoyed this young actress in the role of Leia. I know that she was a surprise to many. I'm sure at this point, if you saw the show, maybe after a few episodes it aired, maybe it had been spoiled for you, but I'm putting this in the spoiler section here because they did not show Leia in any of the marketing, and I know that there are a lot of people who may still go into this not knowing that we're getting a young Leia. Then touching on the Grand Inquisitor again, he's killed in the second episode here, and I remember it was just so funny to see everybody freaking out, like, oh, they broke canon, or people just saying, oh, they bring this Grand Inquisitor guy in and kill him right here. If you've seen Star Wars Rebels, that takes place 5 years after the events of this. We know the Grand Inquisitor is still alive. So as soon as he was stabbed, I knew that it was a fake out and that he was going to be completely and utterly fine, and he was. It was also great to see Tamara Morrison in here in the second episode in a quick cameo playing a 501st veteran trooper that Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan comes across and gives a little credits to. It looks like he's just out of it, doesn't recognize Obi-Wan at all. And at first when I saw the blue armor, I thought, oh my God, Rex in live action, Captain Rex in live action. But unfortunately, that was not the case. It was just a 501st veteran trooper, but it was great. Once I heard Tamara Morrison's voice, big smile blew up on my face. I also want to mention, I thought it was really cool to get that name drop of Quinlan Vos just in a few episodes into the show, as Obi-Wan is introduced to an underground kind of pathway that different Jedi and people are using to run away from the Empire, and there was writing on the wall from various other Jedi. And just to hear a Clone Wars Jedi's name mentioned by Ewan McGregor, I thought was great. Quinlan Vos, a character that has a history with Obi-Wan. They have a great friendship. Some people thought that Quinlan was going to show up. I knew he wasn't going to show up, but it was great to just get that name drop. And then just, I believe in the next episode, when we go to the Fortress Inquisitorius, Obi-Wan ends up finding a tomb of sorts underneath the fortress where they have a bunch of Jedi bodies kind of frozen in some sort of, it looks like, you guess you could say frozen in carbonite. It's not carbonite, but it looks like it's frozen in some sort of slab of, I don't know, something. And, at first I thought maybe these guys are alive and are in some sort of stasis, but it seems like they're actually just dead and they're keeping their bodies inside of this, kind of some sort of containment. The first Jedi we see there, this alien species, is actually Terrace Nube, which is the Jedi that we see in the Clone Wars. So it was a nice hint and nod to fans, but also very tragic hint and nod to fans, as Terrace Nube was such a loving and kind Jedi who helped Ahsoka over the course of a few episodes in the Clone Wars. Seeing him again, nice wink and nod to the fans, but very tragic. And then the one thing I definitely want to touch on at the very end of the show, we get to see Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn return, which was fantastic. We also get a quick hologram moment with the Emperor, which was fantastic, being able to see Ian McDiarmid return to play the Emperor in this great little sequence between him and Vader really quickly as we lead into A New Hope, or at least head to that time frame. I thought was really, really great. I really thoroughly enjoyed just seeing these little references and nods and things that tie the universe together, and being able to see Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan walk up alongside a Force Ghost version of Qui-Gon Jinn, for me, was a dream come true. And I cried the second that moment happened. There was a moment where I couldn't help it. The ugly crying face kind of started up and tears started pouring down, and for me that moment just really validated my love for the Phantom Menace and the Gungans and Qui-Gon Jinn and Jar Jar Binks, and just really took me back to being a kid. And overall, that's kind of how I felt about the show overall. You know, when it really comes down to it, there are times where I felt like the show needed more time to breathe. A few more episodes would have helped, but then there were times where I felt like there was a conveniency element to the narrative that ultimately, you know, maybe stretch certain things out a little bit further. Why did that character let that character go? Why did that character not kill that character? Yada, yada, yada. Things that kind of stretch the story out a little bit longer than it should have been. There is an element of feeling like this series should have been a movie like it was originally intended to be, but I'm not going to complain about a 6-episode Obi-Wan Kenobi series that overall I had a great time with. I have some minor gripes here and there, but for the most part, they're really just nitpicks. Again, a lot of it comes down to some conveniency in the writing, but I was really just completely encapsulated in everything that was happening from beginning to end. And unfortunately, I don't have that much more time to keep rambling here on camera. I gotta edit this video and get it out for you guys. But I will be doing a live stream probably at some point to do a full spoiler discussion on this. And I hope you guys will enjoy that when that time comes. A big thanks to you guys for watching. Please hit that like button, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.